I want you to picture a scene. It's probably happening in a dining room somewhere in the world right now. It's dinner, the vibe is relaxed, plates are clinking, everyone's just unwinding. And suddenly, a parent, say the father, reaches for something and just knocks over a bowl of hot soup all over his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And it burns, so instinctively, without even thinking. He shouts a swear word, you know the one, loud, sharp, just pure reaction.
Right, it's a totally raw human moment. And the key thing here is nobody else at the table really panics. The other adults might wince a little, maybe hand him a napkin.
Exactly. The word itself is just, it's background noise, it's understood for what it is, a reaction to pain. It just vanishes into the air. But let's say 10 minutes later, the 6-year-old at that same table drops a fork. It clatters on the floor, and mimicking that exact same tone they just heard, the kid shouts that exact same word.
And the room freezes. You can feel it. The temperature just drops.
Instantly. All the casual conversation stops, utensils down, and the whole atmosphere shifts from, family dinner to a formal inquiry. Then comes the lecture.
Oh, yeah. We do not use that language.
Yeah.
That's not civilized.
You're being bad. And the kid is just left there completely bewildered. And this really gets to the core question of our deep dive today. Why does the exact same word, spoken in the same room, suddenly become a moral catastrophe for a child when it was just a harmless slip for an adult?
It's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it? We're working with a really compelling essay today. It's titled Run Duk Dan, which translates roughly to the pasted text. And the author argues something pretty uncomfortable.
What's that?
The argument isn't that we hate the swear word. I mean, if we really hated it, we wouldn't use it ourselves. The argument is that we hate who is saying it.
Whoa. So we aren't judging the vocabulary, we're judging the speaker's status. That is a heavy way to start.
It is. And look, before we get any deeper, I think it's important to state our mission here. We're not here to be the morality police. This isn't about whether swearing is bad or good.
Right.
We're looking at this through the lens the source gives us. And the question it puts on the table is this: are we actually teaching children morality, or are we just teaching them how to live a double life?
That is a critical distinction, because I think every parent, every adult listening has felt that tension. You slip up, you let out a damn or something, and then 5 minutes later, you're demanding absolute linguistic purity from a kid. The source calls this the hypocrisy of civilization. So let's unpack it. Where does this double standard even come from? Is it just simple hypocrisy, or is there something, deeper going on?
It's much deeper than just being bossy. The source argues it starts with a psychological mechanism called role separation. This is basically a coping strategy for adults.
Okay.
See, adults don't really view themselves as one single, consistent person.
Yeah.
We fragment ourselves into different roles.
You mean like work me versus weekend me, or my personal favorite, driving in traffic me?
Exactly. You have your social self, that's that's with friends, watching a game, reacting to a stubbed toe. And in that role, swearing can be, functional. It's a pressure valve.
A way to vent, as the source says.
Right, it's accepted. But the second you turn to your child, you subconsciously snap into your parent self or teacher self.
And the parent self is the guardian of all that is good and proper. That version of you would never swear. That version is calm and collected.
But here's the fundamental flaw, and it's where all the confusion for the child begins.
Yeah.
Children don't understand role theory. They don't see parent you versus social you.
No, they just see you, one person.
A single, giant, all-powerful human. And when they see that person, the rule maker, breaking the rules, they don't think, oh, dad's just in his social role right now.
No, they aren't thinking about social performance. They're just thinking, that's a lie. They see a contradiction.
And that actually creates dissonance for the adult, too. The source points out that we hate feeling like hypocrites. It's this itchy, uncomfortable feeling. But changing our own behavior is hard. It takes a lot of work.
So instead of changing the behavior, we change the story.
We change the narrative. We engage in self-justification.
I've heard this a million times. It's not a bad word, it's an adult word. Or when you pay the bills, you can say it.
It's a classic defense mechanism. We're trying to convince ourselves that we're still a good parent, even when we're showing less self-control than we demand from a toddler. And this connects to a really profound idea in the text. The idea of the incomplete human.
The incomplete human. That sounds a little harsh. What does the source mean by that?
It's about a subconscious bias. We tend to view children not as separate, whole people, but as, incomplete versions of adults, like they're still in beta testing.
Okay, I can see that.
And because they're incomplete, we feel justified in applying a totally different set of rules to them. But here's the paradox. We treat them as incomplete, but we expect them to have more emotional control than we do.
That is wild when you say it out loud. We're the ones with the fully developed brains. We should be better at regulating our language. But we're the ones yelling at a dropped glass while expecting a 6-year-old to have the patience of a saint.
It really exposes the absurdity of it. We demand a standard of civilization from the child that we, the supposedly civilized adults, can't even maintain. But the source takes it a step further. This isn't just psychology, it's about power.
Power.
Yeah, the essay introduces a really provocative idea that many moral standards are not created to be lived by the powerful. They are created to be imposed on the weak.
Wow. Morality for the weak. That feels more like politics than parenting. That is a cynical take.
Yeah, it is cynical, but look at the dynamic. If you strip away all the talk about raising good kids, you're left with a raw power hierarchy. The adult has the power to define reality. They decide what's right, what's wrong, and crucially, who gets a pass.
So in that context, swearing is kind of a status symbol. It shows you're powerful enough to break the rules without consequence.
And when the child does it,
They're challenging the hierarchy. They're trying to claim a privilege that isn't theirs.
they're stepping out of line. So the parent's offense isn't just about the vocabulary. They're offended by the breach of protocol. But there's another layer to it, which the source calls the fear of being reflected.
The mirror effect.
The mirror effect, okay.
This might be the most uncomfortable part for a lot of us. Why is the adult reaction so often just instant anger? Why do we snap?
Yeah, what is that?
The source argues it's not because of the word. It's because the child is holding up a mirror.
They're mimicking us. They're mimicking the rougher, less polished parts of us. The parts we try to hide when we're in parent mode. And when the child says that word, the adult sees their own lack of control reflected back at them. And frankly, it's ugly. We don't like looking at that.
So instead of looking in the mirror and saying, wow, I have a temper, we smash the mirror. We tell the child to stop.
Exactly. We try to erase the evidence of our own failure by silencing the mimic. If I can stop the child from saying it, maybe I don't have to think about the fact that I said it first. And this, the source warns, teaches kids something it calls performance morality.
Performance morality, so it's all just an act.
It means they learn that morality isn't about internal values like kindness or honesty. It's about checking who's in the room. They learn that right and wrong is just a performance you put on for people who have power over you.
That's a terrifying lesson. Be good when the boss is watching. That's like training for how to be a terrible adult later on.
It is. The source argues it creates a profound confusion of reality. I mean, imagine being a kid just trying to figure out the rules of the world. You're looking for constants.
Sure.
And instead, you learn that truth isn't constant. You learn that whether an action is right or wrong depends entirely on your rank. It completely erodes trust. The text uses this great phrase, quiet suspicion.
Quiet suspicion. That really resonates. It's not like open rebellion. It's just doubt.
It's the doubt that adults are ever telling the whole truth about anything. Kids stop believing adults are authentic. They start thinking adults are just playing roles, wearing masks. And if the people you look up to are just actors, who do you really trust?
And it seems like the go-to move is always suppression, not understanding. We just tell them to stop. We don't explain the why.
That is the key. By just banning the word, we teach suppression. The child learns, don't say that word. But they don't learn what to do with the actual frustration that made them want to say it. They just learn to bottle it up. The source also brings up this concept of nameless shame.
How is that different from just feeling guilty?
Well, guilt is usually, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. Nameless shame is even worse because it has no logic. The child is just imitating their hero, their parent. They're doing exactly what they saw their hero do, and then bam, they're shamed for it.
They can't possibly understand why.
There's no logic to it, so they're left with this heavy, vague sense that they themselves are fundamentally unacceptable.
That is heartbreaking. But this can't all just be on individual parents, can it? I mean, society has to play a role in setting this whole thing up.
Oh, absolutely. The source talks about structural mechanisms. Society is complicit because it provides adults with what the text calls venting zones.
Venting zones, you mean like a bar with friends?
Or your car in traffic.
Yeah.
Or complaining to a coworker. Or online forums. We have all these socially acceptable spaces where adults can drop the civilized mask and use raw language to relieve pressure. Society offers zero such spaces for children.
That's true. Their whole world is under surveillance.
Home, school, the playground. It's all governed by these rules of polite society.
Yeah.
They're never allowed to just be raw. And this leads to what the source calls administrative morality.
I love that term.
It's brilliant. It argues that for a lot of adults, parenting isn't really about leadership, it's about administration. As long as the child is quiet and polite and presents a good image, the adult feels like they've successfully administered the child.
It's about the family brand. Don't make noise, don't embarrass me at the grocery store.
Yes, it's about maintaining a civilized image, not living a civilized life. And the source hits us with a really hard truth here. The reason this whole system persists is because it's so much easier to forbid a child than to change yourself.
Right. Changing the kid is education. Changing yourself is a whole crisis.
It's an existential crisis.
It's the path of least resistance. Okay, that's a tough pill to swallow. So let's pivot. The source doesn't just diagnose the problem, it does offer some solutions, some strategies, and these are not your typical put $1 in the swear jar tips.
No, they're much more uncomfortable than that because they require vulnerability. They require the adult to actually grow up. The source doesn't say become a saint. It just demands honesty.
Honesty over perfection. I like that. So how do you actually do that?
Okay, the first strategy is what you could call the admission of flaws. So instead of that knee-jerk, don't say that, you try a different script. When you slick up, you say, adults sometimes lose control too. And I'm actually trying to get better at that.
That immediately changes the power dynamic. You're not the perfect God on the mountain anymore. You're just another human who's also trying.
It levels the playing field in terms of humanity.
Yeah.
You're validating what the child saw. You're saying, yes, you saw me do that. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
You're not gaslighting them.
I love that. Okay, what's next? The source mentioned naming the state. This feels really important for emotional intelligence.
It is. It's about shifting the focus from the bad word to the emotion behind the word.
So you say, I said that word because I was frustrated or because I was tired and surprised.
Yes. You map the emotional landscape for them. I slammed my finger in the door and I felt a huge burst of anger, and that word came out. That wasn't the best way to handle it. Now the child learns about cause and effect. They learn that words are tied to feelings.
It turns your mistake into a lesson. But does that mean we just let kids swear? I can hear people listening and worrying that we're just advocating for total chaos.
Not at all. The source emphasizes consistency over perfection. The main rule is this: don't demand a level of discipline from a child that you can't provide yourself. If you can't stop, then you need to rethink how harshly you punish them for the same thing.
Or at least acknowledge your own failure.
Exactly. You say, look, we aren't supposed to say that in our family. I messed up. Let's both try to do better.
There was one image from the text that I thought was so powerful, they called it the slow image, or the pause.
Yes, this is a strategy for right in that moment of failure. So you slip up, you swear. The pause is where you literally stop, take a breath, and you admit it. Right there, in real time.
You don't just pretend it didn't happen.
You don't ignore it, you don't excuse it, you just say, whoops, that word slipped out, I was feeling really angry, I shouldn't have used it. It teaches them that mistakes happen, but integrity is about owning them. That one moment teaches more than 1,000 lectures.
It shows you respect them enough to be real. So if we actually do this, if we drop the act and start being real, what's the end game? What is the promised land the source talks about?
The source's vision of a true promised land is. It's probably not what people expect. It is not a world where kids never hear a bad word.
It's not a sanitized, perfect world.
No, it's a world where children don't have to constantly navigate adult hypocrisy. It's a world where they learn that words reflect internal states, anger, pain, frustration, not just power dynamics. They learn that right and wrong are based on actual values, not just arbitrary rules for the weak.
They learn to trust their own perception of reality. They don't have to live with that quiet suspicion.
Exactly. They grow up knowing that adults are imperfect, which is fine, but that adults are truthful, which is essential. That builds a foundation of trust that lasts so much longer than fear of punishment.
That feels a lot healthier. Messier, for sure. It requires us to admit we're wrong, but it's real.
It is. And it brings us to the final, really provocative thought from the source. It leaves us with an existential question that I think everyone listening should probably sit with for a minute.
Let's hear it.
The question is this: are we teaching our children how to live better lives? Or are we just teaching them how to behave differently depending on who holds the power in the room?
Wow. Are we teaching morality? Or are we teaching survival in a hierarchy? That question goes so far beyond just swearing. That applies to everything.
It really does. It forces you to look at your whole approach to parenting, to leadership, to everything. Are you building character, or are you just enforcing compliance?
Well, on that note, we're going to leave you to think about your own venting zones. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure. Stay curious.
And stay honest. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.